Welcome to the Two Old Guys Reselling Podcast, the coolest, the greatest, the bestest podcast there is.
That's it.
We are your home for reselling, wrestling, and real good times.
Always a good time.
Always a good time. What's up, buddy? How's it going?
Man, doing great, man. Same as always, running, and
Run.
I need about 24 more hours in every day, I think, to get everything done that I think I'm going to do when I wake up. I get up this big plan, and I really do try to strategize, but man, it's like it goes off the rails by lunchtime every day. I'm too ambitious sometimes, I think. But
I thought that just happened to me. So you're telling me that's a common problem?
It is, I promise. Hey,
I think every reseller out there would like to be able to purchase a few more hours a day. That would be,
oh yeah.
Because in this business, time really is money. The more time you can invest, the more money you can make. So yeah, that would be a nice thing to be able to have. But unfortunately, the good Lord only made 24 hours in a day, so we're stuck with what we got.
Yeah. Good thing sleep's overrated. I mean, as long as we get 2 or 3 hours, we're
Yeah. Well, I'm guilty of sleeping a good 8 hours. A good 8 hours a day. That I throw that CPAP on and I'm done until it's time to wake up. You won't get me up for a while. I'm
trying to do better at that. I think probably I've always made jokes about sleep being overrated because I have probably deprived myself too many times over the years of the proper amount of sleep. But I have been making an effort probably the last 2 or 3 weeks to try to at least get 5 to 7 hours, which for me, is way more consistent than normal. Because I felt like I was just running into the wall way too early. But anyway,
it happens if you're not careful.
Yeah,
you'll literally run into the wall eventually if you're not careful. So we want to talk real quick for a second about the Highway 127 2024 Pickin the Plateau. If you guys are not aware, we are hosting a reseller meetup August the 4th. Is it the 4th or the 2nd? I'm going to mess this up already. Let me look right quick. May, June, July, August the 2nd.
Yeah.
August the 2nd. And all the details are down below in the Eventbrite link. Tickets are for sale. We have several tickets sold already. We've got several resellers coming. You can meet awesome resellers like Josh the Bama Jaybird reseller, like Rocky Top Picker, like Alex the Beard King Picker, and Shane Soda City Flips, and Chris Easy Pickens is now also on board with those guys. And we're looking forward to that. And there's many, many more people already come.
And Caleb from the Old Pass.
From the Old Pass, yeah.
That's it.
That's exciting right there. But yeah, we're looking forward to it. The tickets are as cheap as we could just, $25 covers your food, covers your event, covers everything.
Yep.
Kids 12 and under are free. So we hope you guys will show up and have a good time with us. We're trying to make this event more about the people than making money. I don't really anticipate making money.
Right.
That wasn't even the goal, but just to have a good time and to be able to get together, because thing is, you'll find out, just as I've found out, people will be like, hey, let's get together and do something.
Oh yeah.
Well, listen, if it were possible, we could, but when you have 10, 15 people holler at you and say, what are you doing Friday night, Saturday night? Let's go picking together, whatever they might say. Well, there's only so much of you to go around. So a meetup is a great solution to just say, hey, here it is. We're putting this together, making it as cheap as possible. Come eat with us, have a good time. And we're doing giveaways. I mean, we're going to try to do some nice stuff. So we're anticipating that. Sponsorships, supporter packages available if anybody wants to do that. No pressure. It's just available for those who want to. But that's only 3 months and about a week from now. That's getting really close. Like when we started announcing this stuff was 5 months out. Now we're 3 months out. And man, that time is flying.
Time flies.
It really does.
But, I think the more we anticipate something too, sometimes it helps that in the early days. I know for me, normally when it starts getting real close, then it seems like the days are dragging. You know, when I'm
2
really
weeks out.
anticipating something, then it's like the days won't pass very fast. But
Yeah, that's true.
It's going to be a good time, no doubt. And we do look forward to seeing everybody, and hope that, a lot of you who are watching who maybe haven't bought tickets yet will be able to attend. I know if you're like me, and I mentioned this before, a lot of times, even when I have made plans here, I have to wait on some days to pass to make sure that the window of opportunity is going to be open. So we totally get that. I'm sure there'll be a lot of tickets there toward the end when people finally know whether or not their schedule is open.
Yep.
And know whether or not anything has happened to prevent them. But we're excited about it. It's going to be a good time. Who knows what all we'll end up doing before it's all said and done. We got a lot planned, but we got a lot to talk about still. But we know we've got a lot of fun activities and just good things that's going on that I think everyone will appreciate. And more than anything else, just good family fun, getting together, hanging out. We really want it to be, like we said before, almost like a family reunion or a church homecoming style atmosphere. Just joy, that's what we want to come from it. Pure joy.
Anytime you have that kind of food, it is pure joy. Oh man.
I don't know. Sometimes afterward it's pure misery for me.
That's true.
I tend to blow by the stop sign, I see it clear.
I've done that a few times.
I see it clear. Oh man. But I just don't pay it any attention.
Me too. So we already know what the title of this episode is going to be, because me and Josh was talking before the show, and here's the title for all you that are interested. What does reselling success smell like? You want to elaborate a little bit on that, Josh?
Oh, me. Well, we were just talking about how things were going to be changing for Caleb in his new space and the likely obstacles he could run into. Seeing as how there's a bathroom parked right in the center. Right in the center. I told him I need to talk to his son and tell him, he needs to make sure that he stops by every so often. leaves him a special surprise.
Oh my gosh. And that's when I proceeded to talk about definitely installing a vent fan in that thing, and then you're like, well, it don't remove smell, but
it don't work.
It never works.
It don't work.
I may have to put a padlock on that door or something and just have the key hidden just for me. That's my bathroom.
You need a giant sign that says for number one only.
Number one only. Oh wow. I didn't realize that was going to go quite the way it went, but okay. So on the more serious note about the
that's serious. I don't know what you're talking about.
It is pretty serious. It is pretty serious.
I know secretly you're really nervous about this now.
Yeah, anyway. I'm gonna hide the toilet paper. That way they go somewhere else. But I want to keep calling this the shed, like the new reselling space. If you're unaware of what we're talking about, we moved. And we're going to be moving my eBay operation to the guest home of our new home. And that could be a couple of months out. I may have to go to a storage unit after all with my eBay selling space. I don't know. This depends on how quick our home sells. But I want to keep calling it a shed, but it's a guest house. And it's going to be fixed like a guest house. So we're not going to put a kitchen in it. We're not going to put countertops in it. Maybe one day. We're going to leave that as an option if we want to.
Right.
But right now it's going to have the loft as a bedroom. It's going to have a full bathroom. And then the rest is going to be just finished open space, just kind of like a living area. So 420 feet of open living area. And I'm not 100% sure if I walked it off correctly, but I think I can get 15 to 17 shelves pretty comfortably in that space. And that's 1 to maybe 2 more than I've got now. So it may work out really, really good, just all the way around, and we'll have to see. But yeah, the bathroom's going to have a pocket door probably. And when you walk out, you're going to be right in the racks. So like I may start getting complaints on feedback about the way stuff smells. We'll just have
about to say
we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's an issue. It's an issue. You better wrap your clothes.
wrap you wrap your clothes.
Make sure you put them in a poly bag.
But everything starts getting packed before it gets listed. Start boxing everything up before you put it on the shelf. Oh,
we're gonna be watching those videos where you're going to grab stuff. There's gonna be bottles of Febreze hanging around.
You'll see me stop and be like, "What is that?" Oh my gosh!
Oh,
no,
goodness.
Definitely gonna be some courtesy flushes out there. I'll just tell you that much right now.
Oh man!
Oh my goodness! So, yeah, that's. I did meet with the contractor, as I told you.
Right.
And they're busy, so it'll be June before they can start, and probably mid-June, something like that. So he said it'd take around a month, so mid-July, August before they could finish. And I'm like, man, that's quite a ways off. That's actually meeting time, like meetup time.
Yeah.
It could possibly still be just not hardly finished by meetup time. And then Tanya told, the contractors and everybody that I have a YouTube channel, so it has to be done before then. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to think I'm crazy. Like, this crazy guy resells and has a YouTube channel. Because contrary to popular belief, not everybody knows this is a thing.
Absolutely.
Not everybody knows what we're doing is a thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's honestly, it's a growing area. It is. Reselling still is as a more than just a hobby. It's been a hobby for years, but it's like it's a lot of the flea market type selling has moved online, and I think that's why we've seen. It's not that flea markets don't operate, but I know where I live, flea markets are not what they were when I was a kid. Same. And it seems like they get condensed down more and more. And if you go to the right place, they can be really good. And I know that in certain areas, they talk about the one in Florida. I forget what it's called. That's so good. There's some here and there that I know do well, but man, it's changed a lot. And also on YouTube, probably 5 years ago, this genre was wide open. If someone would have started a reselling channel 5 years ago, their odds of being able to grow quickly over time and to establish a really good following would have been very good. Now it's like everything else. It's starting to get more crowded, but in getting more crowded, it's also pulling a bigger audience. So the audience is more divided, but it's got a lot of growth potential, I think, over time. If you get in there and stick with it, I think there's potential there.
Yeah, it's not as easy to reach the levels of a Commonwealth picker or a Harry Tornado as it would have been, even, and those guys are not like been around for 20 years or nothing, but even when they started, I'm sure it was difficult, but now it's like, everybody, and this isn't a discouragement. It's just a lot of people say, hey, I want to do the YouTube thing. Well, here's my advice on doing the YouTube thing. Be yourself, because if you're not yourself, if you try to mold yourself after one of these other guys and, hey, I'll do what they did and I'll succeed, you may and you may not, because people can tell if you're acting. And people can tell if you're genuine. So being yourself, if that's not enough, and you can't enjoy doing it, that may not be for you. It just, not to try to discourage anybody, but just in reality, YouTube is one of them things you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it.
Exactly.
And I like filming. I like editing. When I edit, I like to make, everything crisp and clean and flow and just have a good flow. I'm sure I don't always succeed at that, but that's what I go for. But I don't know how I liken
that. I liken it to any other pathway that we take in life. There's nothing wrong with doing something just because you really love it. There's people that collect things that are never going to be a top tier collector, either because they don't have the funding or they don't have the time, or, it takes a lot of research, a lot of dedication to really know a category. Like if you're going to be a trading card collector, to know it well enough that you can go there and sift through a box of 2,000 cards one at a time and know exactly what to pull out. You know what I mean? Yeah. Know exactly what is undervalued. I mean, because you can't sit there with the book. Just like, we use the phone to help us comp prices. But honestly, to be a really good picker, you've got to be able to move quickly. So if you don't work a lot to build your knowledge so that you can quickly move it, look some things up. You got to continue to grow that knowledge. But you can't go to every sale and pop up in that sale and look every single item up that you think could be valuable, you will not get to enough places to buy enough stuff to make a living. It won't happen.
Exactly right.
So, but anyway, I was going to say, I think it's like, I think about careers. I told my son, he works at a car lot trying to sell cars, and he does pretty good. He's got a really good outgoing personality. And I think probably long term, that maybe not selling cars, but something where he deals with people, it's going to be really good for him because he's naturally disposed to that. But there's a lot of people that come in there that don't last but a few months because, anybody can hire in as a car salesman, but not everyone's going to have as much success selling cars if they don't have the tools to do that. And so anyone can make YouTube videos. Any of us can. But we never know how we're going to go over. We never know how we're going to be received. And, it doesn't mean just because we make videos that we're, like you said, it's one in I know we talked about this some last week, but it's one in a large number that have the success, say that Josh Varnell has had, Harry Tornado, or that Kevin has had, on his channel. That just doesn't come around. And even with them, it's still a measured success, because when you look at YouTube in the bigger picture, the really successful channels have millions of subscribers, not just not just 100,000 or a few 100,000. They've got millions. And it's the sky's the limit if you hit right and you can. But again, some people just, it's just natural. They just have what they have. That's why we're drawn to them, and we watch those channels, And for some of us, like you said, it may just be a hobby. Any of us can do it. So if you enjoy it, by all means, jump in there and enjoy yourself. But temper your expectations a little bit, because you got to work hard, and it's going to take time. I think it's really a 3-year plan, at the very least, if you're looking to even. If you're looking to make just every month, make enough to be able to take a draw out of it. I think for the average person, you're looking at least 3 years,
I just got my first deposit from the Old Pass channel, $104.
Yeah.
So I've been monetized for like 2.5 months. That's the first deposit, $104. And I was thrilled. I was like, man, that's $104 that I wasn't getting.
Yeah.
It didn't exist before. And I was still doing the same thing, making a video. And that's based on, like 300, 400, 500 views video. So you can make hobby money. I would, that's not support yourself money or nothing, but you could make it pay you back a little bit over time, like you just said. But I mean, it's just got to be, it really needs to be something you enjoy. If you don't enjoy it, you're probably not going to.
Well, I think anything like that you do, since part of the way of getting over, so to speak, with an audience, if you are obviously not enjoying yourself when you're on camera, unless you're trying to pull some kind of gimmick or something like that, you know what I mean? And it's what you're actually doing on purpose. You know what I mean? If when you're doing whatever it is you do, whether it's, eBay or whatever it is, I mean, people that tell you, to do YouTube, they will make statements like, figure out what it is you already do, that you do well, that you do often, and just get a camera out and start filming it. Whatever it is that you enjoy, that you're knowledgeable about, just start filming. You don't have to know a lot to start filming. Start filming, start posting videos, and you'll learn as you go to a degree. But the point is, if all I'm showing people is that I'm miserable doing this, they're going to be very unlikely to come back too often to my channel. It don't matter if I'm being myself. If myself is miserable,
exactly,
probably not going to go over very well in the long term.
It does translate.
If you look at ones that are successful, one of the things you'll notice that most of them have in common, the really successful ones, it's a lot of positive energy, a lot of play. They just look like they're having the time of their life doing what they're doing. And it don't matter if it's reselling or if it's something else, they just look like they really are having a good time. And I think that draws us in.
You know what they call that? Magnetism.
It is.
Magnetism.
It is. And some of us are a big magnet. Some of us are a little magnet, Yeah,
exactly. So I have an announcement to make.
Uh-oh.
You ready?
I don't know.
Here it goes. The champ is here. Oh. That's right. Right here, buddy. In front of you. Right.
Oh, whatever.
Right here.
Oh, man.
Oh, the comment section has spoken, sir.
Oh, my goodness.
I
was kind of surprised, honestly. I felt good about my joke last week. And I'm not bitter about it, but I really felt good about it.
That's what happens when you start getting the big head. Old man Champ here comes in, sweeps your legs out from under you, puts you in the old crippler crossface, and makes you tap out. So,
I didn't tap.
Well, you passed out, tapped out, whatever you want to call it.
I'd pass out probably before I'd tap out. I'm one of those type.
Okay. But, I'd go crying and screaming, tapping all over the place.
I have no doubt.
I would not miss a good opportunity. My grandpa used to tell me, I'd tell him I did something. He'd say, "Would you cry?" No. Well, you missed a good chance. That's what he'd tell me. But he was kidding. I never seen him cry either. But
I really try not to project because, I think men a lot of times, whether they are or they are not, they have this tendency to try to project this toughness that goes beyond what any of us actually possess. But I will say this, growing up with my dad, man, I've watched him do stuff. He had a portable bandsaw, a wood miser that was all hydraulic. It's like a LT40, I think, a pretty good size one. And I grew up around the sawmill because from 86 on, he had a small one first and then transitioned a few years later to the bigger one. And so I grew up around that and helping him during the summers and when we were out of school from the time I was about 10 years old. But anyway, I've watched him more than one time. That thing, the head, it moved down, through the lumber. It had a like a round tube, like tube steel on the top and bottom that it was fastened to, had rollers. And then it had a chain that like a chain drive on the bottom. And it had a little turn knob where you'd speed it up or slow it down, and it would pull itself through the log, as it's cutting. And you're supposed to stay behind it, This got the control panel where the sawyer stands behind it and walks with it and walks back. But my dad was notorious, he'd step around and take a look, and come back and step around and take a look. And I've watched him more than one time lay his hand down on that railing, and that saw head would catch his thumb, and all you could do is wait for it to finish walking over it. I mean, he'd just stand there while that thing just drove across his thumb, mashed, and he'd do this. Never holler, never say anything, not stop. He gets to the end of it, back up, keep cutting, and I'm seeing him with the thumb stuck up now, knowing what he done. But that's the kind of dude he was. You know what I mean? He just finally, you get done with that log, and you're like, you okay? Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. Mashed it pretty good, but I'm fine.
Oh my gosh.
So, just crazy. So he was tough. He really was. I mean,
they made him different back then,
Man, look, his brother and I know we need to stay. Well, look, we're the channel of everything.
Yeah.
My Uncle Ray had open heart surgery 3 different times.
Jeez.
I can't remember if it's the second or third time he'd had the open heart surgery. I mean, this is back in the 80s and the 90s, when it was, it wasn't new, but it was, it was more the old style, but he was a avid outdoorsman. And, I think it was like I said, either the second or third time. He was released from the hospital. Anyway, 3 days after he was released from the hospital, he went coon hunting with his kids. He was running through the woods 3 days after being released from open heart surgery. He tripped and fell, and his chest busted open.
Oh no!
Like the wire, it's not like this. You know what I mean? But it pulled apart where it hadn't grown together good enough yet, and the wires gave, and it busted open. He had to go in and have his chest wired back together and the incision sewed back up.
Oh my gosh.
That's the kind of dude. He had the chainsaw get into his arm one time, and when he went to the emergency room, the nurse that come in that was supposed to like trim off, there's some place that had to be trimmed before they could bandage it up. It didn't cut like this. It just kind of skidded across it and just kind of mangled it. I know it sounds terrible. She couldn't do it. He took the scissors and he trimmed it for her. I mean, dude woke up one time on one of his surgeries. He had an open heart surgery. Woke up on the operating table, and he didn't say anything. He told his doctor about it when his doctor come in to check on him, like doing the rounds afterward. He's like, "I watched you in that mirror doing that, sir." He's like, "No, you didn't. You'd have went into shock." He started telling him exactly what he done.
Oh man.
He said, "Oh my goodness." I mean, it scared the doctor to death. It's like, but I mean, anyway. So lots of good stories though. I could tell them for days.
That right there, yeah.
He was built different. I'm just going to say that.
That's definitely a built different kind of story.
He was something else now. One of my most favorite people to be around growing up, though. I mean, he was just so much fun.
Just don't complain, right?
Oh, my goodness. No, not at all.
Don't complain. Yeah. Oh, man. So back on the reselling talk a little bit, I have went almost 60 days. And in those 60 days, I've listed about 4 times. But I've been pretty consistent with my no listing. And as I've said, leading up to now, most of the reason for that was I wanted to shrink the size of the store to make it easy to move.
Right.
Well, now I've got this date on completion of the new reselling space, could be, like 3 months. So I have no reason not to list now. So I have drafted 25 today. Before we got on here, I was just trying to jump in there and do as much as I could, which brings us to another good point in this video that, like, really we can dig down on this for a minute.
Yeah.
Of how much it really does affect your performance. This is what my video is going to be about too on the Old Pass this week. But consistency in listing, is it really a thing or is it not a thing? And I talk about it like, yes, absolutely. Some form of consistency is important. And just like what I've been doing, 20 a day was garnering me somewhere around $250 to $300 a day average sales. That's where I was sitting. When I was doing 10 a day, I was somewhere between 150 and 200. When I was doing 5 a day, I was somewhere between 100 and 200. I mean, just there is data behind it that suggests the more you list, the better you do.
Yeah.
But I do think too, a lot of people say, okay, I can list 20 things a day. Well, here's another thing. It matters what kind of things. If you're listing 20 baseball cards a day, don't expect to sell $500 worth of stuff, because, $23 items isn't going to cut it. Like you can do that, but you can't get the same kind of results. But now I was doing 20 a day, trying to shoot for 300 at least dollars a day, 6 days a week. And that garnered me where I was at somewhere near 300 in sales a day. On the flip side of that 60 days almost with nothing, I'm down somewhere around $80 to $100 a day right now. And that's after being explosive on sale. That's died. I sold 11 orders, like 13 or 14 items this weekend for $250. So I dropped from somewhere I was getting really close to anywhere from 800 to 1,200 a weekend, and I'm down to 250 this weekend. So that tells you anything. It tells you that listing does make a difference.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think there's two sides to, you mentioned the number. Like you said, you can list a whole lot of things that only sell for $5 to $10, and you're not going to, yes, I think it does stimulate activity for your store to a degree. So you may sell older items that are higher value.
Yeah.
But if you consistently only list those types of things, because we all know that a large part of our sales will come from new listings over the course of a week, then it's going to affect the money that you're making. Now, I think that's where a lot of people, some people they'll list a certain monetary value every day, Now, I think there's something to be said for maybe doing both. I think, if you got your goal set at 20 items, then you need to be selective as best you can with the inventory that you have available to list, and maybe also have a monetary goal attached to that, maybe 20 items and a minimum of $500 worth of listings out of those. So, you don't pick too many smalls. It's also very easy to always avoid the smalls and only list the higher dollar items. And I think it's smart to list fast selling items. I think we all benefit from that. But as we're going through just our general inventory, it's good to have a mix of those things going up, because otherwise you're going to accumulate a massive pile of lower dollar, slower selling items that you just don't even want to have to mess with. But if you mix it together, like I said, combine those two ideas, the number of listings with a value in mind as well, I think you'll get kind of the maximum result. But
absolutely. And one thing that ends up happening when you do what you just said, you end up having this mountain of cheap stuff, smaller items. It pushes you to think about, well, kind of what my policy has been, and it will be going forward, is minimum amount I want to put on eBay is somewhere around $14.99. Actually, probably couldn't hurt to go to like $19.99, but just that way when it goes cha-ching, that was it's always going to be a decent sale. But then that leaves you with the question of, okay, do I lot all this stuff up? Do I do whatnot? Do I, just how do you unload? Because at the end of the day, if you're like me and you and a lot of resellers, you go to this yard sale and you see this tote of old toys, like they have a big old tote of toys for $20. And it's one of these 27-gallon totes. And you can just look into it and find 5 or 6 things that will recover your money and even make you money. Well, the possibilities could be really good. So like what you was talking about earlier, comping, I hardly ever comp at a sale. I hardly ever do it. I'm usually, it's this thing about you develop this sense of that could be good. Now, if it's a something I develop a sense that could be good, but it's $100, I'll probably comp that.
Oh yeah.
Just because of the risk. But if I'm looking around, to give you an example, I bought a candelabra deal a year ago or so, and it had the lava lamp bulbs in it. It was an old 70s style Christmas candelabra deal.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it looked really cool. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pay $10 for this. Because I just knew it was worth $50. Turns out it was worth $115.
Right.
So you develop, and I'm not saying I'm always right. Listen, sometimes I do that and it's a big fat lose, like I lost,
Sure.
But more times than not, and educating yourself.
Oh yeah.
That way, when you walk by a sale and you see that really sweet Nintendo 64 sitting there that you haven't shipped me yet, by the way. Anyway, you see it sitting there. I bought one time at a church sale. They had just set it out on the table. It was the 64. It was like Mario, Donkey Kong, GoldenEye, like all the main big titles. I said, what are you asking for all of it? And she said like $35. And I'm like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I know I can make that back in a couple of the games. And then I've got, had like 20 games or something.
Oh my goodness.
You have to develop, you have to learn. This is like anything else. Right. You're in the school of reselling now. You have to develop your craft, hone your craft,
And a lot of things are obvious. Like you said that about the candelabra thing, the candle Christmas decorations.
Yep.
One thing you'll learn is, and I can't say, I mean, I know like you got to be careful with ornaments. Ornaments can be, outrageously valuable. They can also be a total dud,
Yes.
So it's not like 100% across the board. But in general, vintage Christmas decorations, especially when you get outside of just ornaments, they tend to, if they're at least 70s or older, they tend to have quite a bit of value. And like you said, as long as they're priced reasonably and they're in pretty good shape, you don't normally have to do a lot of thinking. If someone has one, normally they have more than one item, usually when they're putting it out too. So like if you end up just making a pile of that type of thing, even if you have a couple of strikes that you have to chunk, you pretty much can know you're going to do well. And that's the kind of thinking. That's what you begin to develop it. Part of it is just like a sense for it, but a lot of it is over time, just like you said, learning. You just know certain areas, certain pieces of a niche. Like Christmas is a big, big niche, that you could focus on that has a ton of sells all year long. And from old stuff to new stuff. I mean, if you find we all know if you find a giant inflatable, it can be just 2 or 3 years old, but they are so expensive when they're new. If you're getting a good price on it, you'd be foolish not to buy it because they always resell very well. But you just got to know, you learn those things, like you said, and you don't have to think about it when you see it. Now, if it's $100, like you said, it's a little different.
It is.
If it's a 12-foot inflatable, it might be a $500 inflatable. So it's still, in that case, you've got to at least scan the barcode and then ask some questions. Hey, did you use this last year? Does it hold air? Does it need? And sometimes you can patch those. People have bought them that needed a patch because they're worth so much. They're worth doing the repair to, in order to get the sale. But anyway, I was going to point something out too in terms of that extended period without listing. You said it had been about 60 days.
Yeah.
And how long have you been monetized on your YouTube?
Probably about 90 days, I guess.
90 days.
75, 80 days, something like that.
You don't think you were overwhelmed with expectation on that, and that kind of drove you to not list partially?
Oh yeah, that's what it was. I knew my pot of gold was on YouTube now. So
you knew it was coming.
Stop
and
doing
then
eBay.
And this is what happened after
Yeah.
3 months. After 3 months of being monetized and 2 months without listing, he got his $100 check and decided, you know what? I think I'm going to have to be an eBay reseller after all.
Yeah, it didn't work out. I was waiting for my $100,000 check to show up, and it didn't show up.
Isn't that the way it is, though? Seriously.
Well, I honestly had no expectations.
How did you've talked about this a little bit. I was going to say, on a serious note on that topic, if you find yourself, because I know with you, it wasn't like just part of it was choice, but even had you been making an effort to list, I know with everything you've had going on, you would have been very limited in the amount of time you could have devoted to it. And there's no way I'm sure you would have maintained 20 a day. You might have had 20 or 30 a week, but it would have been very hard because of all the moving, all the stuff, just the business side of things you were having to do to get your house ready and purchase the new property. It's been a lot going on. So we all have stuff like that come up from time to time.
Yeah.
Things that even if we're working a job that's not eBay, that hinder work, that causes us to miss work. But specifically when we're doing eBay, if we don't have a very large bank of items that are ready to post, over time, say you normally have a pretty big amount banked. Say if you had, 300 items that were prepped and ready that you could release slowly over time, that might fix it. But if you don't, what do you do? How do you remedy those slow sales and, without just giving your items away? And I think what you done worked, though. I think, you were able to maybe bridge it a little bit, at least, to stem the tide. Yeah. And sometimes it's like putting on a tourniquet. You're going to suffer from the situation, like financially, when you get in that space as far as how your sales are going to go. But sometimes you do have to think like drastic measure almost. What can I do to stem the tide till I can get past this event? And we find ourselves there in life. Like I said, I've been there before with my other job. If you're going to have to be out of work, you have to think, okay, what can I do to make sure that I shore things up and I'm able to, meet my basic needs financially until I can get back on track. And so, I think with eBay, you have to be more aggressive with your offers. You do have to look at your promotions and maybe be more aggressive than normal with what you're paying to promote the items already in your store. You used a pretty aggressive sale. Sometimes that can draw attention. And, you can always send coupons to previous buyers or to people that are currently buying, add coupons on.
I've done all of that, by the way.
Yeah. And it helps you a lot. For a few weeks, you really were blowing things out,
I'd say 30 days out of the 60 was really explosive. And then, but, you can't expect, if you don't pay the water bill, the water don't stay on forever. It's just the way things work. So it's like an old proverb I heard one time said, man was standing at the dock waiting for his ship to come in. Another man walked up and said, what are you doing? He said, waiting for my ship to come in, He said, oh, really? When did you send it out? And he said, I didn't. He said, then it ain't coming.
Yeah.
And that's it. You gotta do the work if you expect the reward,
Absolutely.
You got to do the work.
Absolutely.
So I got a question for you.
Okay. What you got?
How is the video that kind of took off for you doing? Has it stopped or is it still?
Yeah, it finally hit the wall. What day was that? I was in town last week. I can't remember now. Like on Thursday, maybe it was when I was in town. It had another big push around like from 8 to about 12 or something like that. It was over 100 views an hour. And it dropped off really quick after that. Like we talked about, when the spigot gets turned off, it like gets turned off. And so it's so odd. It's just so odd how all that works. It wound up going over 4,000 views, which I know there's a lot of people, that do what we do that get 4,000 views in a couple of hours and they release a video. But that's for someone like me with less than 1,000 subs, and when you're just, just grinding away at making videos, just like we do at eBay, then that's a big thing for me. So, and I got right at 100 subs out of it.
Wow.
So, it did good. And I'm still, it's the funny thing is, like, I released another video that Thursday or Friday when I saw that one was kind of tapering off. And I normally would have released Monday or Tuesday, but because that one was going so well and it had gotten, kind of caught a little bit of a push, I was afraid that if I did anything to, with my presence, so to speak, on YouTube, that it might affect how the algorithm was promoting that video. So I decided to hold off. But anyway, I put that one out, and it's not done much of anything. I mean, I feel like it's as good as the other video, but it's just one of those weird things. I mean, it's performed okay. It's like a number 4 or 5 for the last 90 days or 30 days they look at. I forget what it is now. If you look at your metrics,
it's your top 10 or something.
Yeah, it's a top 5 for the most recent 10 videos. So I mean, it's done okay for me, but compared to that video, it's been trash, And the other video for the last 3 days, because it's been about 5 days now, I think that one's been out. It's like that other video, even though it's just getting a few an hour, it's actually had more views in the last 48 hours. The 4,000 video, it still had more than my new video, because it'll get 3 views and the other one will get 2 views.
Yeah,
it's weird how that happens. But anyway,
the ones I had that blew up, they still get views here and there.
Yeah,
but they're pretty well dead. But they'll get 2 or 3 views a day, 5 views a day, 10 views a day, whatever it might be. But that's cool though. Like, how many? Where are you sitting at subs right now?
I think it's like 804.
Wow.
But the weird thing is, it's like this though. I hit 700 like on April the 11th. I think it was April 11th or April 10th, 11th, 12th, somewhere in there. And it was basically about 7 days later I had hit 800. And it was all because of that. It's all because of that video though. Like, I mean, I'm telling you, getting from 600 to 700 was just like walking through mud that was knee deep. I mean, it was just painful, and then it's like in a matter of a week when they finally promote, and it's like roulette. I know Paige mentioned that the one video, his best video, it was like, what he say, over 2 weeks later when it took off, it had been out for a while, or maybe it was longer than that. I don't know, but so it's a good while. Yeah, and said it just suddenly caught fire. Unexplainable why it would do it then. When you release other videos after. And that's the thing that doesn't make sense. It just tells us that one of the keys to channel growth, again, just like with eBay, is to be consistent. Just keep putting out content.
Yeah.
And somewhere in that roulette of them deciding whether they're going to promote your video, the times that they do, eventually you will build an audience if you're making good content. Yep. But you got to wait around and be patient to catch your turn on the merry-go-round enough times to start building your audience up. And I mean, it eventually will get there.
And I feel fortunate, and I mean, you've done well too. Like, I've not grown none, and probably, I mean, I won't say none. I've grown by probably, I don't know, 50 or 60 subs in the last month, 2 months, something like that. I've not had any explosive growth. I've just had normal, one here, one there. But here's the good thing about that. Those that subscribe, one here, one there, one here, one there, they're going to stay more than likely.
Right.
I've found that the ones that subscribe, they find you on the way through. They're part of the community. They may or may not watch you every week, and that's fine. I can't watch everybody, and everybody can't watch me. It's just not possible. But it does seem like the ones that you pick up here and there and here and there, that's your base. It really seems like.
And I mean, I'd go as far as to say this, like if you look through your subscribers and you see my name, I probably genuinely love your channel. Yeah. And a lot of times I do listen in the background or watch, from a distance as I'm working, but I don't get to comment. I'm sure people do that with my channel. Yep. But also there's a lot of times it's just, there's so many channels. I mean, I'm subscribed now to so many channels that it is absolutely impossible for me to keep up. And especially, if you're a content creator that makes 45-minute long videos and puts out 3 or 4 a week, I can't keep up with that.
No, you can't.
I mean, I just don't have enough time to watch it all. And it's not that I don't enjoy it. I watched more before I was doing all this other. Before I was doing YouTube, I watched a lot more YouTube than I do now. Now, most of my watch time is devoted to editing and recording and prepping videos. So, and prepping.
You was talking about earlier how the big channel, like not even in reselling. In reselling, 100,000 is like a really big channel, but there are channels out there that have 100 million, like,
oh yeah,
big channels. Logan, my son, was showing me Kentucky Ballistics. You probably heard of that, the guy that shoots guns and all that stuff. And he's got like millions and millions and millions. And I told him, I'm like, yeah, I'll probably get a shout out from him here later. He'll find me on YouTube and shout me out. But
right.
But that's just crazy. He's just a normal guy too. Like when you start listening to him, he's just a normal guy that he caught on with an audience. Right. He's got entertaining content. I will say that he's fun to watch.
Yeah.
And I think your personality, like I know we've talked about this a whole lot, but your personality is what people are going to be attracted to. The end of story. Like they're going to like the way you present it, or they're not. They're going to stay or they're going to go. So, but yeah.
I think on a knowledge side of things, like a teaching side, I think as long as you're doing a good job on that, I think you do have a chance to grow on that, even without the magnetism. The people truly are able to learn from you. But I think the ceiling is so much lower for that as far as growth. Like I said, you go back and, I know we mentioned him a lot. We're not trying to just say, oh, but Harry Tornado, you go back and look at his early videos. He did a lot of the same things we're doing. He did instructional content, videoed himself cleaning stuff, videoed himself talking about what he did to sell stuff, But over time, his audience really grew into more, and he'll say that it's more about entertainment for them now.
Yeah.
He realized that he could just be himself on camera doing what he does and not focus so much on teaching, and his audience would grow like this instead of like this.
Yeah.
And if we're not careful, we box ourselves in as far as channel growth. No matter what your area is, you can box yourself in. I told you this, if we wanted just to grow a podcast, if we started really paying attention better to wrestling, like, really making that something we paid attention to right now, we could do a 1-hour podcast every week on the current state of wrestling and bring in history and just laugh and cut up and talk about it. And we could probably build an audience of thousands doing that. Probably within a couple of years, we could have a really successful podcast because it's a popular area. It's a popular genre, but
crazy fans.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
We'd be getting some crazy comments for sure.
Oh man.
That's one of the most passionate fan bases. Like they're very opinionated. So while we're here on wrestling, natural segue, right?
That's it.
Let's go ahead and do this week. And it's all you this week in wrestling history. And it's not working. Now it decided to work.
Oh, it come on my end the first time.
It didn't mind.
It come on and went off. You said not working and come back on. I was like, what is he doing?
I don't know.
It must be a little bit of a lag to it today, but that's all right. So I got to thinking about this, and when we first started, we were going to do, like, say, 3 things. But then I think, well, if we do this a very long time, we may run out of things to use for each week, over time. So I'm going to keep it to just a couple. But I found a couple that I thought were really interesting. 1976, Stan Hansen defeated Bruno Sammartino in the WWF championship match, and it was by a referee stoppage. And so the way the match was set up, and this is normal with wrestling, if it's a disqualification, ref stoppage, a lot of times the title doesn't change hands. So it had to be by submission or pinfall. So Bruno retained the title. But the really interesting thing out of this, as we know with wrestling, it's always, it's scripted and it's fake. Yeah. But the licks and the knocks that they take, Bruno's neck was broken from a body slam during the match. Man. Yep. And so they attributed it to, I think, the signature move, like to market it so that when he came back, it would have a storyline to build on. But he actually was in a botched body slam. His neck was broken during the match. And that possibly, too, is the reason why the match was, called.
Yeah.
But it was due to excessive bleeding is what they said. But I thought that was an interesting little fact and kind of getting some of the old timers in there too.
That's back there a few days.
So, and then I'm going to go with in 2000, WCW had a match, and it was a tag team match. So this is when DDP had the belt. Okay. But this tag team match, it was him and David Arquette versus Eric Bischoff and Jeff Jarrett. But the stipulation of the match was whoever got the pin would get the title.
Yeah.
And this is one of the bonehead decisions that WCW done that probably helped them lose the Monday Night Wars in the end. Probably.
Yes.
I mean, and look, both companies were reaching at times and reaching for the wrong things to try to stir up the audience. But David Arquette got the pin on Eric Bischoff, so random actor, and he walks out with the title. That makes a whole lot of sense, right? So it really, really got people pretty upset. But anyway.
Did you know over the last couple of years, David Arquette actually went out and done some wrestling on the indies?
Really?
He did. He couldn't get involved in anything big because his name has already been tainted so bad because of that.
Right.
Like when you say David Arquette in the wrestling community, it's an instant groan. Like, oh, David Arquette, like WCW title, which also brought about that triple cage whatever match. I can't remember what it was called, Triple Cage of Doom or something, where wasn't it like Arquette and Jarrett and DDP and somebody in the cage?
During that time, Jarrett and DDP were in battles all the time. That was one of the big rivalries at that point. So I know they were involved, but
anyway, they got the belt off of him in that cage match. I'm pretty sure. I might be wrong about that, but I think that's right. But yeah, it was like, honestly, one of those head scratchers. People often say the finger poke of doom. When Hogan and Nash, Nash got poked, Hogan poked him, he falls, he pins him, wins the title. They say that killed WCW. No, listen, that might have been stupid or whatever, but you can recover from that because at least it's still the wrestlers. But the David Arquette stuff, when they started doing that stuff, it was just a matter of time.
Oh, yeah.
And, I remember watching Thunder one night in 2000, 2001, right before they got sold. And Dusty Rhodes had a real life donkey out there. And it was a kiss my butt match, but, the donkey. And that was the whole, and it was so stupid. Like they just forgot how to book, and they didn't have. They had lost Flair, and they had lost Sting, and they had lost Savage. They had lost Hogan. They had lost Goldberg. They had lost everybody from injury. Scott Hall was out. Like, everybody was out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Jeff Jarrett was carrying the torch.
Yeah.
Love him or hate him, Jeff Jarrett wasn't really ready back then. In my opinion, I just don't feel like he was ready. Now, when Scott Steiner and Booker T did all their stuff, like, that was more believable. But Jeff Jarrett, when he took over and started TNA wrestling, he come into his own a little bit more believable. But yeah, that's some back there stuff, man. Some crazy.
Oh yeah. Well, and the gimmicks and the storylines, that's really what it comes down to. I know people talk about the stars, but the stars become stars because they're given a good gimmick and good storylines.
Yeah.
And when you run out of that, or you lose that, or like I said, when you start, you can't go too far outside the box. It's not hard to look back at the history of wrestling and figure out what works. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about, even with YouTube a while ago. It's personalities, man. They've pushed people before that didn't have enough personality on a microphone to carry what they were trying to do with them. There's a reason why people like Hogan and Stone Cold and The Rock and some of these more modern, there's a reason why they were so popular, and they didn't need a manager. They didn't need a lady by their side. Randy, Macho Man. Like them or love some of those guys. They were just really, really just bigger than life personalities that were good on a mic, and they sounded childish and goofy, but people eat it up. People have always enjoyed that part. They've always enjoyed it.
You talk about sticking to the script. If you ever listen to Eric Bischoff talk, he'll talk about why things fail, and he's an expert, even though he made a lot of bad choices during his time. He made the choice to have Kiss, the band Kiss, main event a Monday Nitro during that time,
Right.
2001, I believe. And that's when the Kiss Demon became a wrestler. Like Dale Torborg was his name. He was a baseball player, but they made him the Kiss Demon.
Right.
And they had Kiss play a song while the demon came out of a grave or a casket or something. Well, that was the main event slot of the show. And guess what happened? That was the single worst rated segment in the history of the show.
Don't surprise me.
It shouldn't, because guess what? Wrestling fans came to see wrestling, not hear a concert.
Yep.
It's just, you just got to stay with what you know.
And I think during those wars, like I said, I think sometimes they were thinking, what can be the final shot? The shot that, because it was back and forth, and both companies at times were searching for that death blow,
Oh yeah.
And so I think that led them so far outside the box sometimes. I don't think their intent was to, do things to kill the audience's attention or to anger the fans, but oftentimes that's what the result was,
Yeah, I agree. All right.
But yeah, some interesting stuff.
That was some good topics. I like them. So I want to ask you about one thing that kind of popped up this weekend, and then we'll get on with our dad joke and our comment of the week and our sell of the week, because we got to get rolling here. But so there was a Facebook post by you bragging about what you made for supper again.
I didn't brag. I just post pictures.
Whatever. You don't have to brag. Your pictures speak for themselves. But you had posted some awesome looking, it's like not fajita, but Mexican style food.
Yeah, just some nachos I did.
And I was like, man, that looks so good.
Yeah, it was pretty yummy. I'm not gonna lie.
And I don't know if it was that post. Maybe it was that post. I can't remember, where Rocky Top Picker chimed in and said, man, I can't wait for 127. You're definitely going to have to come down here and make breakfast for us, yada, yada, all this other stuff. And then somebody, maybe it was Ben, also said something. Somebody said something about, you should start a cooking channel.
Yeah, that was Ben.
Was it Ben?
That was Ben.
And I was like, man, if there's ever been an obvious path to a channel, that would be it. Like, you could make that happen. But like we was talking about before too, there's only so much of you to go around, and you're already stretched pretty thin.
Well, I'm not stretched that thin. If you see me in person, there's a lot of me to go around.
I wasn't really talking.
I'm not stretched or thin. But
no, I didn't mean it like that. But okay.
Yeah. Well, you just have to be me, But
well, I understand.
I would love it. Look, I've loved to cook my whole life. We mentioned this, I think, on a previous episode. I mentioned something about this, but I grew up kind of, my mom has always been just a fantastic cook, and she cooked country style, but she cooked everything else too. And then my aunt and uncle had a very successful restaurant most of my life that my mom worked at. Several of my aunts worked down there. It was pretty much about 4 of the sisters, most of the time that it was open, 3 to 4 of them that ran the kitchen. And I mean, it was very, very, very good. And they had a really good business. So, I mean, I've grown up around that. I worked there myself for a while when I was a teenager, just bussing tables and doing dishes, just the normal stuff you do when you're a kid. But I've been around that stuff all my life. It's just always been such a big part of our family. And I guess, I used to think that's the way it was for everybody, but the older I get, the more I realize that's not the case,
Yeah.
And, but I do love it. It's just one of those things. I've batted around the idea of having a restaurant a lot of times, and just, man, I always think I'm afraid of the work, man. A restaurant's a lot of work. It's man, you talk about time commitment. I mean, if you sign up for that, you're not doing anything else. Not if you're going to be the one behind it.
Yeah, you're done for sure.
So it's not something I've just never been willing to make that step, because I wasn't wanting to sacrifice the amount of time that it would take away from everything else in order to do that. But yeah, the channel would be nice. It'd be nice. But like we talked about, the logistics of that, man, trying to do all the different camera angles and stuff to actually put together a good video, a good edit. If you had someone recording for you, you could do better probably. Where you could, you could edit out the camera turns, where you could have, the camera time talking, the camera time of the cooking process. But it'd be fun, but we'll see. Maybe one day. It's on my list. I think, I've got on my YouTube, I've got about 4 or 5 different, sub accounts, that I've got laced into my YouTube account that I'm only really working off of one of them right now because there's just not time. I was very ambitious when I decided I was going to do YouTube. I was going to do about 3 or 4 channels at one time because there's so many things I love. I was going to do a history channel and a music channel and, a eBay channel and possibly a cooking channel. I've got one that's just kind of just there, that's what the thought was, but who knows one day.
Well, I'm definitely, we can be your first video. So when you're here in August and you come to the house and we'll just put you in front of the stove and I'll film and I'll be like, here is Josh's pilot episode.
I hear you.
I mean, it could even be cooking with the 2 old guys or cooking with one old guy and the other old guy watching him cook or something like that, or whatever. But yeah, definitely. That's exciting. Like, I think it would be cool, but I understand the time constraints too.
Yeah. Now that would be a cool idea though, for a little, just extra little thing to put up on our channel though, just cooking with the 2 old guys, cooking breakfast with the 2 old guys, and just cook breakfast one morning, film some of it, film some of the whoever we have with us to eat that day, film some of that, and
probably like you and me and Casey, and nobody else would show up. Mine are all afraid of the camera.
Man, I tell you, if you say biscuits and gravy, there'll be some people show up. Back here where I live, they're gonna show up.
That does make a difference. Not gonna lie, it does.
It'll have an impact. Ain't nothing like a homemade biscuit, man.
Oh my gosh, no.
But funny thing with Ben. So Ben, I had commented on one of their videos, and like one of his comments back was, you are definitely going to have to be at our house every morning to cook breakfast. And I'm like, wow. And then he said something again when I made that post. I'm like, he even acting like it's optional. It's like, you are now contracted to do this. There's no pay involved. I mean, there's just
no pay. Listen, Ben. Listen, Mr. Rocky Top Picker. He's mine. Okay, he is mine.
Oh my goodness. Oh, according to last week, I'm your Bama baby.
Yeah. See, that's it right there. That shuts every door.
Goodness.
You belong.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it though. I did tell him, that I definitely, and we may have to kind of figure that out. It'd be nice for a lot of us to get together one morning and have breakfast together. I think that'd be fun.
Absolutely.
And I would be more than glad to cook because I love to do that. So
that sounds awesome to me. And I'll be more than happy to eat because I love to do that.
But I mean, I'm going to have to haul half my kitchen, man, between bringing, the skillets and stuff to cook breakfast in. And then, cause I'll have to have my stuff. I can't,
yeah.
You got to have I got to have my biscuit pans, it's just, that's important.
I hear you.
But,
well, they're seasoned right. They're already fixed the way you want them,
It's just what I'm used to. I mean, when I start scooping flour, I know exactly about how much to get for each size. I mean, I'm comfortable with it,
You can't trust them Tennessee skillets. They're no good.
No, they're good. I'm sure they're good. I just, you know what I mean? It's just, I already know I'm going to be packing a tub full of cookware and things to bring with me because of what we're doing, So it's just is what it is. But,
all right. So what do you got on sale of the week this week, brother?
All right. Sale of the week. You're going to like this one. I sold a Baptist hymnal.
Hey,
it's a large print edition. If you don't know, if you ever see a Baptist hymnal out in the wild, thrift store, whatever, they're bigger, of course. Large print, it's a larger size. But if you find a large print edition and it's like it, you better buy it. That's all I'm saying. I sold this one for $120.
Jeez, I did not know that.
They are hard to come by.
Is it like the spiral bound or just the hardback?
It is not. It's just a regular song book, but it's large print.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, it's probably it's almost the size of like a sheet of copy paper, like the size.
Okay.
So it's a pretty good size, not quite that big maybe, but it's pretty good size. So everything in it's large print. But they didn't, I don't know if you can still get them or not. They've printed them 2 or 3 times over the years and churches have ordered them. Like this one had a church name embossed on the front.
Yeah.
I actually got it on our way back from Omaha when we went to Plains to Prop. So that at least covered our gas, most of it. I think now.
That's awesome.
So anyway, like I said, it was in really good shape. Now I will say that, but I'll say this too. Now there's 2 different types of these. There's one that's the regular hymnal, and then there's one that I forget what it's something to do with It's called a player's book. I think my buddy Jeremy that plays piano for us, he said that they also had a large print edition that was specifically for musicians, for like the pianist, accompanist, or whatever. And he said that one was worth a lot more. And so I got to looking into it, and I think it probably sells for closer to $200. But I had to get him to look at pictures to tell me which one it was I had. I didn't have to research it because he could tell me. But
wow.
But be on the lookout for them. That's a good bolo that probably in a thrift store would be completely overlooked. And if a church ever got rid of their old hymnals and they were a church that had bought 50 or so of those and just offloaded them somewhere, you talk about some profit. Man,
payday.
So,
wow, that's crazy.
Yep. Be on the lookout.
Well, I sold
churches. Don't go breaking into churches looking for them.
No robbing the house of God.
Yeah.
Stay away.
Yeah.
Do not go breaking into God's house.
They used to steal the tubing out of the HVACs, you know. I mean, people that do drugs and stuff, you know, out in the country. If they only knew what was inside.
I know. Really.
That's worth more than the copper.
Absolutely. Well, I sold a DeMarini bat. Mine's not as exciting as yours.
Well, I know DeMarinis are good usually.
Well, they're really good. Mine was pretty rough. Like it was well used. I'll say it like that, but I still sold it for $60.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, when one is beat up and, you know, scuffed up from a lot of use and you still get 60, it's pretty good. Yeah. So I was happy with it. What about comment of the week?
Can I say one thing about the bat real quick? I don't know if you've done this before. I've got to. I'll be very fast. When you clean it, have you tried using the magic eraser? I can get them nearly 100, like all the ball scuffs, all that stuff. Now, not like a deep scratch, but like all those little marks from hitting the balls and stuff. I mean, I can make it look almost new just by using a magic eraser. It cleans it so clean. It's unreal. It makes it look nice, man. And it does affect the value.
Absolutely, it does.
Yeah. Comment of the week. I went with Hillbilly Mountain Picker, and he said the Bama Babe come off the top rope, took you out last week.
Well, he must be the only one that said that.
Well, no, he wasn't talking about that show. He was talking about the week before, I think. He said last week.
Oh.
So I may be wrong.
You're just trying to.
I'm living in the past.
Yeah, you're just trying
to let a man enjoy himself.
Live off of your short-lived title reign.
You got to do what you got to do, boss.
Do it. All right. All right. So mine is Breeze Flippers. They said, is there a none of the above selection for the jokes this week?
Yeah.
Then they said, I guess I have to give it to Caleb, though. Great show, guys. But the best part of that comment was a reply from Bama Jaybird. He said, I lost big time this week. I just wanted to remind you what you said.
Well, I said that because at that point, there have been so many votes for you. Yes. And honestly, the only reason I did not go with that comment was because of the second sentence in it, which said, we're going to give it to Caleb anyway. You know, yes, we'll vote for Caleb.
I guess I have to give it to Caleb, though, which means mine was better. Not that it was good, just that it was a little bit not as bad as yours.
And pretty much across the board, if we look at the votes, it was pretty much both jokes were terrible, but we had to give a pity vote to somebody. So Caleb got a bunch of pity votes. But,
I'll take it. That's that. All right.
It is what it is.
I don't care how. Listen, it don't matter.
I feel like I lost to a finger poke. You know, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do much. Poked you in the eyes, rolled you up real quick, put my feet on the ropes, and pinned you. That's how that
I was talking about that Hogan poke. You know, you mentioned earlier. That's about what I feel like it was. But we'll do better this week, hopefully.
It's pretty close. Oh, you're going to do better, huh?
I said we. I said we will do better this week, hopefully.
I hope so. You ready?
We both need to raise our game a little bit based on those comments.
Or make it worse, depending on how you look at dad jokes.
It really does. It depends.
You ready to get the smack down? No. Are you ready for me to lay it the smacketh down? That's how I'm trying to say that. Okay. Here we go. So since I won, I go first, right?
That's it.
All right. So a ship carrying red paint and a ship carrying blue paint collide in the middle of the ocean? I'm giving you time here. No ideas?
I guess not.
Yeah, both crews were marooned.
Yeah. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. I like the paint ones. That's some of my favorite ones. I just did that and didn't click for me. All right, so I'm going to preface this just to fuzz. Do you have trouble this time of year during allergy season? I've been sneezing my serious. I'm being serious here. I've been sneezing my head off.
Do. Yes, very much so.
Yeah, I mean, like it's really rough. I've been just up and down. Like I'm stopped up right now because I sneezed a good bit before the show started and it hadn't recovered. So you know what causes all that pollen?
Oh no. I
Man,
mean,
them flowers just can't keep it in their plants.
Here we go, right? I'm tapping out this week. I'm going to have to go ahead and tap out probably because I believe you just won this week.
I mean, I like yours. Yours was good. Now, I'm not lying. That was a good joke. But now when I read that one, I laughed out loud. The one when you read a lot of dad jokes, it's hard to find one that still makes you laugh out loud the first time you read it. That one got me. So
that's pretty good. Pretty good. Not bad.
I should have used it last week, evidently, because that was the one I was waiting until I heard you, unleash something I felt like I needed it for. And evidently I needed it last week.
Yep. You just 1 week too late.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, look, I'm telling you, I feel like I'm at a disadvantage on these votes, man. I got Glenn on my side, though.
You got Glenn. Glenn's never going to vote for me again.
He's got my back. I appreciate it. Thank you, Glenn.
He messaged me again telling me I was still a loser, that you won again. Josh is the champ, he says. Okay, Glenn. Thank you, sir. Vote of confidence. It helps.
That's it.
All right. Well, we'll leave you guys with a teaser today. Josh may or may not have some information about a transaction next week.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting, kind of scary. But definitely something I'm considering. And I just need to do some more research. So I think it'll be interesting for a lot of you to hear about. But I told Caleb I don't want to talk about it too much this week because I feel like I don't know enough yet to speak well about it. So it's in an area, we'll say this, it's in a niche area that I don't have enough knowledge on to just walk in and make a snap decision. So I've got to go back and do some research, and we'll see. It could be a potential, what we could say, maybe a little bit of a game-changing type buy.
Yes, could be
for the near future. It all depends on that work ethic afterwards, though.
That's where it gets me usually.
Yeah, this is
all
tough.
Right. All right. Anything else before we head out?
I don't think so. One quick update. I'm not going to talk a lot about this, but have made some progress on the house for Mom. We got the plumbing finished up. Had plumbers come out and finish up. I had started the water plumbing, and they finished a little bit up that lacked, and also did the drain plumbing. Got the vent, got the hot water heater installed. The wiring is pretty much done, minus the stove wire still. So I mean, I'm in good shape on wiring. I'm actually hoping to pick up insulation this week and start insulating, and I've got to get the HVAC people lined up so that we can have some heat and air put in. So we're moving forward, hopefully fairly quickly there, Lord willing. So
that's awesome.
I talked to the sheetrock guy last night. I'm debating whether I want to do that myself. I did my house, but for speed's sake, depending on the cost, what they say they'll charge, I may look at having it done this time.
It is definitely a lot quicker. Them guys go in there and sheetrock one in a day or two and have it finished out, totally finished in a week. Like
I know. Well, they'll get it all hung. They'll come back in, put the first layer of mud down, come back the next day, put a top coat down, sand it off, touch it up, like you said. But then, I mean, it's amazing how fast they go. Amazing.
They know what they're doing, and it's like art. It really is like art.
It is. And to be honest, the biggest drawback for me is I hate white boogers.
Yeah.
I mean, you have white boogers for 2 months when you do sheetrock.
Yep.
I mean, and it's rough on your sinuses, all kidding aside. I wear a mask when I do it, and I finish quite a bit of it. And it's just no fun, man. Fills your eyes up when you're sanding over your head. I mean, it's miserable.
It's a nasty mess. Like
that's a job I would not want to have full time.
Oh no, you couldn't pay me enough to do it. It's
I don't know about that, but I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't go asking for it.
I mean, yeah, $1 million a year, I'd probably do it. But, you know, like figure of speech.
Yeah, I would do it for a year.
1 year and I'm out.
1 year. That's it. Yep.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you guys for watching. And once again, come hang out with us at the meetup in August. Hope to see you there. Until next time, this has been episode 48. Big 50's coming up in 2 weeks. Stay tuned for some news on that.
Absolutely.
Episode 48 of the Two Old Guys Reselling Podcast, and we are out. See you guys later.
Later, guys.